Commander Wraith stood in the center of the command sphere, watching the holographic display of another fallen world. The crystalline structure of his body caught the blue light from the screens, scattering it across the dark room. He had seen this same pattern 83 times before. It never changed. The planet below was called Thornax Prime. 2 weeks ago, it had been home to a thriving civilization. The Thornians had built cities that touched their clouds, had mastered fusion power, and were just beginning to reach for the stars. They had a population of 14 billion souls. Now their cities were silent. "Begin resource extraction," Wraith ordered. His voice echoed in harmonics that only his species could fully understand. Around him, other Velchari moved through their tasks with calm efficiency. There was no celebration, no triumph. This was simply what they did. The Velchari had perfected conquest 3,000 years ago. They did not use weapons. They did not send armies. They did not need to. Instead, they used something far more effective: despair. The signal was their greatest achievement. It traveled faster than light, penetrating every shield, every barrier, every defense that lesser species could imagine. It reached into the minds of sentient beings and showed them a simple truth: nothing matters. Your struggles are meaningless. Your hopes are illusions. Give up. Most species lasted less than 2 weeks before they surrendered completely. "The Thornians have transferred control of their government," reported Subcommander Velnus. "All resistance has ceased. They are requesting only that we spare their children." Wraith nodded. The Velchari always spared the children. They were not cruel. Cruelty required emotion, and the Velchari had evolved beyond such things. They simply took what they needed and moved on. The conquered worlds would continue to exist, ruled by puppet governments, their resources flowing to feed the ever-expanding Velchari dominion. "Prepare the fleet for the next target," Wraith said. The council had already selected their next conquest. Wraith pulled up the file, studying it with the thoroughness that had made him the most successful commander in Velchari history. The target was a small yellow star in an unremarkable region of space. The third planet showed signs of industrial civilization. "Earth," Wraith read aloud, tasting the alien word. The inhabitants called themselves humans. The initial scans showed promising signs. The planet was rich in rare minerals. The civilization was divided into competing nations, and their technology was primitive by Velchari standards. They had barely reached their own moon. "They fight among themselves," Velnus observed, reviewing the same data. "Multiple wars ongoing. High levels of social conflict." "They should fall within 5 days," Wraith agreed. Divided species always fell faster. When the despair signal hit, they had no unity to fall back on, no shared purpose to sustain them. They simply collapsed inward like dying stars. "Set course for the Sol system," Wraith commanded. "Standard approach. Full signal strength." The Velchari fleet moved through space like a shadow, their ships built from the same crystalline material as their bodies. 47 vessels, each the size of a small city, each carrying the technology of 3,000 years of unopposed conquest. They did not hurry. They never needed to. The journey to Earth took 31 days. During that time, Wraith studied the humans more carefully. They were strange creatures, soft and biological, bound to their fragile bodies in ways the Velchari had long since transcended. They felt emotions strongly: love, hate, fear, joy. Such things made them weak. But there was something else in the data that made Wraith pause. The humans had survived many extinction events: plagues that killed millions, wars that devastated continents, natural disasters that destroyed entire regions, and yet they persisted. They rebuilt. They continued. Wraith dismissed the thought. Persistence meant nothing against the signal. Every species thought themselves special, thought themselves strong until the despair reached them. Then they all learned the same truth. The fleet entered Earth's solar system on a cold morning in November. They passed Mars, ignoring the small human research station there. They glided past the asteroid belt, their sensors drinking in data about this strange little system. And then they arrived at Earth itself, taking position in high orbit. "Activate the signal," Wraith commanded. The despair wave spread outward from the fleet, invisible and unstoppable. It passed through satellites and space stations. It washed over the planet like a tide. Within minutes, every human mind on Earth felt it. Wraith watched the monitors, waiting for the inevitable collapse. The signal was working. He could see the signs. Communications traffic dropped sharply. Emergency services were overwhelmed. The humans were feeling it, but something was wrong. "Commander," Velnus said, confusion coloring his harmonic voice. "They have not ceased military operations." Wraith studied the displays. Velnus was right. Human military forces were not standing down. Instead, they were mobilizing. Ships were launching from Earth. Weapon systems were coming online. Something impossible was happening. "Increase signal strength," Wraith ordered. The wave of despair doubled in power. On Earth, hospitals filled with people who could not stop crying. Suicide rates spiked. Billions of humans felt crushing darkness settle over their minds like a heavy blanket, but they did not surrender. Instead, for the first time in their fractured history, humanity began to unite. Nations that had been enemies for centuries opened their channels to each other. Resources were shared. Weapons were combined. Old hatreds were set aside, replaced by something the Velchari could not understand: defiance. On a destroyer stationed at Lagrange Point 2, Captain Junho watched the alien fleet with hard eyes. He had felt the signal trying to break his will. It told him nothing mattered. It told him to give up. Every instinct in his body screamed that death would be easier than this crushing weight. But Junho had lost his parents to war, his sister to disease, and his best friend to a training accident. He had felt despair before. This was just one more thing to survive. "All ships," he broadcast on the emergency channel. "This is Captain Junho of the Korean Space Navy. I know you feel it. I know it hurts. But we do not surrender. We will never surrender. Hold your positions." Across Earth's orbital defenses, other captains echoed his words. "Hold your positions. Do not surrender. We are humanity, and we endure." Commander Wraith stared at his displays in something his species had not felt in 3,000 years: uncertainty. The signal that had conquered 83 civilizations was failing. The humans were suffering, clearly suffering, but they were not breaking. "Commander," Velnus said quietly, "what do we do?" For the first time in his long career, Wraith did not have an answer. The Velchari had never needed a second plan. The signal had always been enough, but Earth was still transmitting defiance and the humans were preparing for war. Dr. Nari Kim had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes burned as she stared at the brain scans on her monitor, trying to understand what the alien signal was doing to human minds. Around her, the Emergency Research Center in Seoul hummed with desperate activity. Scientists from every nation worked together, sharing data in real time. "It targets the limbic system," she said into her headset, speaking to researchers in Geneva, Mumbai, and Washington simultaneously. "It amplifies negative emotional pathways and suppresses positive ones." "But look at this." She highlighted a section of the scan. "Human brains are fighting back. See these neural pathways? They're activating regions associated with memory, with meaning, with purpose. Our brains are literally rewiring themselves to resist." "How long can we hold out?" asked Dr. Chen from Geneva. Nari rubbed her temples. The signal affected her too. She felt at every moment a whisper telling her nothing mattered. But she thought of her daughter, safe in a bunker beneath the city. That mattered. That was enough. "Unknown," she admitted. "But we need to develop countermeasures. Fast." In orbit, Captain Junho watched the alien fleet through his view screen. They hung there like dark crystals against the stars, waiting. For what, he did not know. Maybe they expected humanity to collapse from within. Maybe they were simply surprised. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from Seoul. High Command is forming a unified defense force. Admiral Hyun Park has been appointed commander." Junho knew Admiral Park by reputation. She was tough, brilliant, and had survived the Pacific War. If anyone could lead humanity through this, it was her. "All ships are ordered to rendezvous at Rally Point Luna," the officer continued. "We're consolidating our forces." "Set course," Junho ordered. His crew moved with sharp efficiency despite the weight of despair pressing down on all of them. They were tired. They were afraid. But they were not broken. The fleet that gathered near Earth's moon was a strange sight. Destroyers from Korea flew alongside carriers from the United States. Russian warships coordinated with Japanese cruisers. European defense platforms locked into formation with Chinese battleships. Humanity had never truly united before. It took an alien invasion to make it happen. Admiral Hyun stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching her ragtag fleet assemble. 217 ships pulled from every nation that could spare them. Some were military vessels. Others were retrofitted civilian craft with weapons hastily welded to their hulls. It was not enough to match the alien technology, but it was all they had. "Admiral," her tactical officer said, "the aliens are broadcasting a message." "Put it through," Yun ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was strange, harmonic, and cold. It spoke in perfect English, though the accent was like nothing on Earth. "Humans of Earth, you have felt our signal. You know despair. Surrender now and you will be spared. Continue resistance and we will increase the signal until your minds break completely. You cannot win. You can only suffer." Hyun let the silence stretch for a long moment. Around her, the bridge crew waited. She thought of her son who had died in the Korean War. She thought of all the people Earth had lost to violence, disease, and disaster. Humanity had always suffered. This was just one more thing to survive. She opened a channel that broadcast to every frequency, to the alien fleet and to every human receiver in the solar system. "This is Admiral Hyun Park of Earth. You have made a mistake. You thought despair would break us. But humans are born into despair. We grow up knowing we will die. We watch our loved ones suffer. We face failure and loss every day of our lives. And we continue anyway. That is what makes us human. So here is our answer. Come and take it." The channel closed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien fleet moved. "They're attacking," the tactical officer shouted. "All ships, battle stations." The Battle of Luna began with light. The Velchari ships fired weapons that bent space itself, creating gravity wells that crushed human vessels like paper. Earth's fleet responded with nuclear missiles, railgun slugs, and laser batteries. It was primitive technology against alien mastery, desperation against cold efficiency. Captain Junho led his destroyer in a tight pattern, dodging fire that could erase his ship from existence. "Target their lead vessel," he ordered. "All weapons." His crew knew it was suicide. The alien flagship was 10 times their size, shielded by technology humans barely understood. But Junho had made his choice. If they were going to die, they would die fighting. The destroyer accelerated to maximum speed, all power diverted to engines. Alien fire scorched past them. One blast clipped their port side, and 10 crew members died instantly. But Junho kept his course. "Ramming speed," he said quietly. "Sir," his first officer began. "I know," Junho said, "but look at what we're buying." While the alien flagship focused on the destroyer racing toward it, the rest of the human fleet concentrated their fire. 100 ships, all targeting the same point on the crystalline hull. Missiles struck home. Lasers burned into the same spot, heating it, weakening it. Junho's destroyer hit the flagship at full speed. The explosion was like a new sun being born. The destroyer vaporized instantly. But the damage was done. The flagship's shields collapsed. The coordinated human fire poured through the gap, and the great crystalline ship began to break apart. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Hyun watched in grim satisfaction. "All ships concentrate fire on the wounded vessel. Bring it down." The flagship died slowly, pieces of it breaking off and tumbling through space. Commander Wraith watched from the second command ship, experiencing something his species had no word for: shock. They were losing. The humans were outmatched in every way, but they fought with a ferocity the Velchari had never encountered. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They used tactics the Velchari had never imagined because the Velchari had never needed to imagine them. "All ships withdraw," Wraith ordered. "Commander?" Felness questioned. "Withdraw," Wraith repeated. His mind was reeling. In 3,000 years, across 83 conquests, the Velchari had never retreated from battle. They had never needed to, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to break. The Velchari fleet pulled back, their ships fading into the darkness of space. They left behind wreckage, both human and alien. They left behind a mystery they could not solve. Admiral Hyun surveyed the damage. She had started with 217 ships. She had 63 left. 40,000 humans had died in the battle, but Earth still stood. "Send word to all nations," she said tiredly. "We won, for now." Dr. Nari received the news in her lab. She felt the despair signal still pressing on her mind, but it was weaker now. The aliens had pulled back their fleet and the signal had retreated with them. "We made them run," her colleague said with wonder. Nari nodded slowly, but she was thinking ahead. The aliens would report back to their leaders. They would analyze what went wrong, and they would return better prepared. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. She was right. The memorial stretched for kilometers across the plains outside Beijing. 40 million names carved in black stone, each one representing a life lost to the alien signal or the Battle of Luna. Admiral Hyun stood before it in the rain, reading names she had known personally, soldiers under her command, friends, family. Behind her, the Global Defense Initiative headquarters rose like a mountain of steel and glass. Inside, representatives from every nation debated humanity's next move. The question was simple but terrifying. What now? Lieutenant Commander Yuna entered the strategy room with files tucked under her arm. She was young, barely 30, but her tactical analyses had predicted the aliens' retreat. Now the GDI Council wanted to hear what she thought should come next. "We made them run," General Kwan said from his seat at the long table. "That should be enough. We rebuild our defenses and wait." "Wait for what?" Yuna asked. "For them to come back with more ships? Better weapons? They've conquered 83 civilizations. Do you think they'll just forget about us?" "What are you suggesting?" Admiral Hyun asked. Yuna opened her files and pulled up a holographic display. It showed the alien fleet's retreat path tracked by long-range sensors. "I'm suggesting they're afraid of us," Yuna said. "Think about it. They've never lost before. Every species they've encountered surrendered within days. We fought back and we hurt them. They don't know how to process that. So we what, chase them?" General Kwan looked skeptical. "Yes," Yuna said simply. "We hunt them down. Every conquest they've made, every world they've broken. We free them all." The room erupted in argument. Some called it madness. Others called it justice. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, one voice cut through the noise. "She's right," said a new voice. Everyone turned. Intelligence Officer Minho stood in the doorway, his face pale but determined. He had been working in the analysis lab since the battle ended, studying every piece of alien wreckage they had recovered. "I've been tracking their signal," Minho said, walking to the holographic display. "It leaves a quantum signature. Every world they've hit, the signature remains. I can map their entire empire." He uploaded his data, and the hologram exploded with light. Dozens of star systems lit up, each one marked with the alien signal's trace. 83 worlds scattered across a vast section of the galaxy. "They've been doing this for 3,000 years, Minho continued. 3,000 years of destroying civilizations. If we don't stop them, they'll keep going until there's nothing left but their empire." The room fell silent. The weight of those 83 worlds pressed down on everyone present. Billions of lives crushed under the weight of despair. Dr. Nari spoke next. She had come to the meeting straight from her research lab, still wearing her white coat. "My sister killed herself because of their signal," she said quietly. "She was strong, brilliant, kind, but the despair was too much for her. She's one of 40 million humans who died, but we're just one world. How many died on the other 83? She looked around the table, meeting every eye. "We have a choice. We can hide behind our defenses and hope they forget us, or we can make sure they never do this to anyone else. I vote we fight." The vote was taken. It was not unanimous, but it was close enough. Earth would go to war. The years that followed transformed humanity. Every resource, every factory, every brilliant mind was turned toward one purpose: building a fleet that could take the fight to the aliens. Orbital shipyards multiplied like cells dividing. The moon's far side became one massive construction zone. Asteroid miners worked 20-hour days pulling raw materials from the belt. Earth's surface was covered with factories running day and night. Dr. Nari led teams developing countermeasures to the despair signal. They could not block it entirely, but they found ways to help people resist it. Magnetic stimulation, therapeutic compounds, training exercises that strengthened the mind's natural defenses. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Minho worked with salvaged alien technology, reverse engineering everything they could. Human scientists discovered that the Velkari were not as advanced as they seemed. They had simply never needed to innovate. 3,000 years of easy conquest had made them complacent. Humans had no such luxury. Every design was questioned, improved, rebuilt. Earth took Velkari efficiency and added human desperation. The result was deadly. Captain Junho recovered from his injuries. The destroyer's crew had gotten him to an escape pod seconds before impact. He woke up in a hospital to find himself promoted to fleet captain and given command of Earth's first dreadnought. The ship was called Retribution. It was twice the size of the old flagship, armored with composite materials that could withstand Velchari weapons, and armed with both human and reverse-engineered alien technology. It was beautiful and terrible, a monument to human determination. Junho walked its corridors meeting his new crew. They came from everywhere: Korea, Brazil, Russia, Kenya, Australia, Japan. Every nation had sent their best. His weapons officer was Suji, a woman who had lost her entire family to the despair signal. She knew every weapons system on the ship by heart and had personally designed 3 of them. His navigator was Kwan, a former peace activist who had volunteered the day after the Battle of Luna. He was the best pilot Junho had ever seen, able to thread a ship through debris fields that would kill anyone else. "Captain," Suji said during their first briefing, "permission to speak freely?" "Granted," Junho said. "We're really doing this. Going after them, all the way to their homeworld if we have to." "Yes," Junho confirmed. Suji smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Good." 5 years after the Battle of Luna, the first expeditionary fleet was ready. 147 ships, each one purpose-built for deep space warfare. Each one crewed by humans who had felt the despair signal and refused to break. Admiral Hyun addressed the fleet before departure. Her hair had gone gray during the preparation years, but her voice was still strong. "We do not go for conquest," she said. "We do not go for resources or territory. We go to free the oppressed. We go to end an empire built on despair. We go to show the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate tyrants. Whatever happens, whatever we face, remember, we are Earth's answer to 3,000 years of conquest. We are the consequence they never imagined." The fleet launched on a cold morning in March. They passed the memorial with its 40 million names. They passed Mars, where new colonies thrived. They passed the asteroid belt, now crowded with mining operations and defense platforms. And then they entered the dark between stars, following Minho's quantum signatures toward the first conquered world. Fleet Captain Junho stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the stars stretch and blur as they jumped through space. Somewhere ahead, the Velchari waited. They would be ready this time. They would have spent 5 years preparing, just as humanity had. But Junho remembered Captain Junho from 5 years ago, the man who had rammed a destroyer into an alien flagship. He remembered why the hunt had begun, and humanity would not stop until every conquered world was free. The Velchara system appeared on their screens like a crystal fortress. Defense platforms orbited in precise patterns. Automated weapons tracked the approaching fleet. And at the center, the planet itself glowed with the light of the psionic amplifier, a weapon that had broken 83 civilizations. Commander Wraith stood in his command sphere, watching humanity approach. He had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. 3 years studying these strange creatures who refused to break. 3 years trying to understand fear. "Supreme Commander," Velnus said, "they are within range." "Activate full signal strength," Wraith ordered. "Show them true despair." The wave hit the human fleet like a hammer. Fleet Captain Junho felt his mind crack under the weight of it. Every doubt, every fear, every loss he had ever suffered came flooding back at once. The world turned gray. Nothing mattered. Death would be easier. Around him, his bridge crew gasped. Alarms blared as crew members across the ship collapsed. This was not the signal they had felt at Earth. This was the full power of the amplifier, focused and magnified. "Medical teams," Junho gasped into his comm. "Deploy countermeasures. Now." Dr. Nari's teams moved through the ships with their magnetic stimulation devices. They had prepared for this, trained for it, but the signal was stronger than anything they had faced. Some crew members responded to treatment, others did not. The fleet's effectiveness dropped by 30% in the first 10 minutes, but they did not break. "All ships," Admiral Hyun broadcast, her voice shaking but determined. "I know what you feel. I know the weight crushing you. But remember why we came. Remember the 47 worlds we freed. Remember the billions who can hope again because of us. Hold the line." The human fleet pushed forward through the despair. They moved slowly, like people walking through deep water, but they moved. The Velchari weapons opened fire and space lit up with destruction. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human ships fought while their crews struggled against their own minds. Mistakes were made. Ships collided, weapons fired wide. But still they fought. Suji, tears streaming down her face from the crushing despair, targeted the first defense platform. "For my family," she whispered, and fired. The platform exploded. "For Earth," she said, targeting another. Quan navigated through a debris field that should have been impossible to cross. His hands shook on the controls. Every instinct told him to give up. But he thought of the peace he had once believed in, the peace they were fighting to create, and his hands steadied. "Retribution," Admiral Hyun's voice came through. "You're our spear point. Take us through." Junho looked at his crew. They were suffering, all of them, but they were still at their posts. "Take us in," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The Retribution led the fleet toward the planet, its weapons blazing. Velchari ships moved to intercept, but they fought with the cold efficiency of beings who had never needed to truly fight before. Humans fought with desperation, with fury, with the weight of 83 conquered worlds driving them forward. The battle raged for 6 hours. 70 human ships were destroyed. Thousands died. But they broke through the orbital defenses and reached the planet itself. Minho and Yuna led a special operations team in dropships, racing toward the surface. Their target was the psionic amplifier complex, a massive structure at the planet's equator. The despair signal was strongest there, almost unbearable. "I can't," one soldier gasped. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can," Yuna said, though she felt the same crushing weight. 5 more minutes, that's all. 5 minutes and we end this." They crashed through the outer defenses and entered the amplifier complex. It was beautiful and terrible, crystalline structures humming with power. And at its center they found something unexpected: Velchari civilians. Not soldiers, just ordinary people, going about their tasks with blank expressions. "They're under the signal too," Dr. Nari said over the comm from orbit. She was analyzing the readings. "It's been controlling them their whole lives. The signal doesn't just project despair to others. It projects purpose to the Velchari. It tells them conquest is all that matters. They're prisoners." Minho stared at his explosive charges, ready to destroy the amplifier. "If we blow this, what happens to them?" "I don't know," Nari admitted. "They might collapse without it, or they might finally be free." Commander Wraith arrived at the amplifier with his personal guard. He had come to stop the humans, to protect the device that had made his species great. But when he saw them standing there, not destroying it immediately, he felt confused. "Why do you hesitate?" Wraith asked. Fleet Captain Junho had joined the ground team. He looked at the Velchari commander, seeing not a monster but something more complicated. "Because we're not here to destroy, we're here to free even you." "We do not need freedom," Wraith said. "We need purpose." "No," Junho said. "Your amplifier gives you purpose, but it's a lie, a prison." Dr. Nari's voice came through the comm. "I have an idea. We don't destroy it, we reprogram it, change its frequency. Instead of commanding purpose or projecting despair, we make it neutral. Let the Velchari choose their own way." "Is that possible?" Yuna asked. "With Minho's technical skills and the access codes we captured, yes. But it will take time." "Hours." Junho looked at Wraith. "We can end this 2 ways. We destroy your amplifier and risk destroying your civilization. Or you let us reprogram it, and we all walk away." Wraith was silent for a long moment. He felt something strange, something his species had not felt in 3,000 years. Doubt. Real doubt, not the controlled kind. What if the humans were right? What if conquest was not the only purpose? "Do it," Wraith said finally. His guards reacted with shock, but Wraith ordered them to stand down. Minho and the technical team worked feverishly, reprogramming the amplifier while human and Velchari forces held an uneasy truce around them. Above, the space battle continued. Ships died on both sides. But slowly, as hours passed and word spread that a truce was being negotiated on the surface, the fighting decreased. Finally, after 8 hours of work, Minho made the final adjustment. It's ready. When I activate this, the signal changes. Everyone will be affected, Velkari and human alike. Will it hurt? Wraith asked. No, Dr. Nari said. It will just stop telling you what to feel, what to think, what to be. You'll have to decide for yourselves. Minho activated the new program. The change was immediate. Across the Velkaris system, Velchari felt the purpose that had driven them for 3,000 years simply disappear. For the first time in their long history, they were free to choose. Some felt relief. Others felt terror. Many felt confusion. But they were free. The human fleet felt the despair signal lift. It was like a weight removed from their shoulders, like breathing after nearly drowning. Crew members collapsed in relief. Some laughed. Some cried. On the surface, Commander Wraith stood very still. Without the amplifier's direction, he saw clearly for the first time. He saw what his species had done. 83 civilizations broken, billions suffering, all for a purpose that was programmed, not chosen. What have we done? He asked quietly. What you were made to do, Junho said. But that's over now. Now you decide who you want to be. The war ended not with surrender, but with understanding. The Velchari government, freed from the amplifier's control, agreed to help liberate the remaining conquered worlds. Former enemies worked together to heal the damage of 3,000 years. It took 2 more years to free every conquered world. The Velchari provided resources and technology. Humans provided the medical treatments and the hope. Slowly, 83 civilizations began to rebuild. Admiral Hyun became the first Secretary General of the new Galactic Council, an organization built not on conquest, but cooperation. Commander Wraith served as her advisor, working to make amends for millennia of conquest. Fleet Captain Junho chose to remain in space, helping rebuild the liberated worlds. He had started the war seeking vengeance. He ended it finding purpose in healing. Dr. Nari continued her work, now helping not just humans, but dozens of species recover from trauma. Her daughter joined her, inspired by her mother's courage. On Earth, the memorials now listed 98,000 names. The cost of stopping the Velchari had been high, but humanity had shown the galaxy something new, that strength and compassion could coexist, that the powerful could choose mercy. 5 years after the Battle of Velkaris, Minho made a discovery. While analyzing long-range scans, he found traces of other empires in the unexplored regions of space. Some were traders, some were explorers, and some, disturbingly, appeared to be conquerors like the Velchari had been. He reported this to the Galactic Council. The news spread quickly. The galaxy was larger and more dangerous than anyone had realized, but humanity was not afraid. They had faced despair and survived. They had hunted down an empire and freed it. Whatever came next, they would face it the same way they had faced everything, together, defiant and unbroken. Admiral Hyun gave a speech to the council that would be remembered for generations. For 3,000 years, the galaxy knew only conquest and despair. That age is over. We, the free peoples of the galaxy, declare a new age, an age of consequence. Let every tyrant, every conqueror, every empire built on suffering know this. We are watching. We will find you. And we will free every world you have broken. This is our promise, this is our purpose, not because. The first liberated world was called Thornax Prime. It had been the Velchari's most recent conquest before Earth, which meant its people still remembered freedom. The human fleet emerged from their jump to find a world in gray silence, its cities functional but lifeless. Fleet Captain Junho led the retribution into orbit cautiously. Long-range scans showed minimal Velchari presence, just a small garrison and a puppet government. But the despair signal's quantum signature was everywhere, still active, still crushing the population's will to resist. This is Fleet Captain Junho of Earth to Thornax Prime, he broadcast. We have come to free you from Velchari control. We know what you're feeling. We know the despair, but it can be resisted. We're here to show you how. The response came after a long pause. The voice was hollow, defeated. Leave us. We are beyond help. The emptiness is all that remains. Lieutenant Jiwoo, the diplomatic officer, looked at Junho with concern. They're too far gone, sir. The signal's been active for years. They don't remember how to hope? Then we remind them, Junho said. Send down the medical teams. Dr. Nari had joined the fleet specifically for this purpose. She led 50 medical ships, each equipped with the neurological treatment protocols Earth had developed. It was not a cure. There was no cure for despair. But it was a tool, a weapon to fight back with. The medical teams landed in Thornax Prime's capital city. The streets were clean but empty. The buildings stood tall but silent. The people moved through their days like ghosts, going through motions without purpose. Dr. Nari set up treatment centers in what had been hospitals. The Thornians came slowly at first, suspicious and broken. She treated each one personally, using the magnetic stimulation devices and therapeutic compounds that had helped Earth resist. The signal makes you feel like nothing matters, she told each patient. But that's a lie. You matter. Your children matter. Your world matters. Let me show you how to fight the lie. It took 3 weeks, but slowly something shifted. The first patient to smile was a Thornian mother who had not felt joy since the conquest. The second was a teacher who started gathering children for lessons again. The third was a soldier who picked up a weapon and walked to the Velchari garrison. The liberation of Thornax Prime was not a battle. It was an awakening. As more Thornians received treatment, as more remembered how to resist the despair, they simply stopped obeying. The puppet government fell apart. The small Velchari garrison, outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, surrendered without firing a shot. One down, Lieutenant Commander Yuna said, updating their tactical map. 82 to go, but she was smiling. They had proof the concept worked. The human fleet moved from system to system. Each liberation followed the same pattern. Arrive, establish orbit, deploy medical teams, heal the population, remove the Velchari garrison. Sometimes it was bloodless. Sometimes the Velchari fought back. But always humanity freed the conquered. By the 6th liberated world, freed populations were joining the fleet. The Thornians sent ships crewed by people who wanted to help free others. The Kasharians provided weapons technology. The Mekshari offered supplies and medical personnel. The liberation became a movement, but the Velchari were adapting. At the Battle of Kesher Station, everything changed. The human fleet arrived to find the Velchari had taken the civilian population hostage. They threatened to kill millions if humanity did not withdraw. Commander Taeyang, leading the assault group, faced an impossible choice. If he withdrew, the Kesharians would remain enslaved. If he attacked, millions would die. He split his forces. Half would engage the Velchari military. Half would evacuate civilians. It was a desperate gamble. The battle was brutal. Velchari ships cut through human vessels with weapons designed to maximize casualties. They were learning to fight, learning to be vicious. Taeyang's flagship took a direct hit, killing him and 300 crew members. But his sacrifice bought time for the evacuation ships to save 6 million Kasharians. The victory felt like defeat. Fleet Captain Junho stood in the memorial bay of the Retribution, looking at the names of the fallen. The list grew longer with each battle. Earth had started this war to stop the Velchari from destroying civilizations. But how many humans would die in the process? Sir, Minho's voice came over the comm. You need to see this. Junho went to the intelligence bay. Minho had dark circles under his eyes from weeks of analyzing captured Velchari data, but his expression was electric with discovery. I found it, Minho said. Their homeworld, Velcaris. The holographic display showed a star system unlike any they had seen. At its center was a planet that seemed to glow with internal light, its surface a maze of crystalline structures. It's not just their homeworld, Minho continued. It's the source of the despair signal. There's a massive psionic amplifier built into the planet itself, powered by their world's crystalline core. Every signal we've encountered comes from there. Yuna was already running tactical simulations. If we destroy the amplifier, we end their ability to project the signal. We cripple their primary weapon. It's also their most heavily defended location, Minho warned. The data shows defense platforms, automated weapons, possibly millions of Velchari military. It would be the hardest battle we've ever fought. Admiral Hyun was called for a conference. She listened to the briefing in silence, studying the data from every angle. If we do this, she finally said, we risk everything. We might lose the entire fleet. We might fail. But if we succeed, we end their ability to conquer anyone else. There's another consideration, Dr. Nari said. She had been reviewing the data about the amplifier. The signal doesn't just project outward. It projects inward too. I think the Velkari are under its influence. Their entire society might be shaped by it. What are you saying? Admiral Hyun asked. I'm saying they might be victims too, Nari said. Prisoners of their own weapon. The debate raged through the fleet. Some argued for a direct assault, to destroy Velkaris and end the threat forever. Others argued for a surgical strike against just the amplifier. Still others worried that humanity was becoming the very thing they fought against. Admiral Hyun made the final decision. We go to Velkaris, but our mission is not destruction. It's liberation. We're going to free every conquered world, including the Velchari homeworld itself. Fleet Captain Junho knew what that meant. The hardest battle, the longest odds, but also the chance to end the war not with more death but with freedom. Recall all ships, Admiral Hyun ordered. Every vessel we have. We're gathering the second expeditionary fleet, and when we're ready, we're taking the fight to the heart of their empire. Minho plotted the course to Velcharis. It was a long journey, through systems that would certainly be guarded. The Velchari would see them coming. They would have time to prepare. But there was no other way. Suji checked and rechecked her weapons. Kwan studied the navigation charts obsessively. Every crew member prepared for what might be their final mission. On Earth, now 3 years into the war, people watched the news with fear and pride. Their fleet had liberated 47 worlds. But the cost had been high. 30,000 humans dead, hundreds of ships lost. Now they were going after the homeworld itself. Dr. Nari recorded a message to her daughter before the fleet departed. If we don't come back, know that we tried. We tried to make the galaxy better. We tried to stop the suffering. Remember that hope is not foolish. It's the bravest thing we have. The second expeditionary fleet assembled in the liberated Thornak system. 300 ships drawn from Earth and every freed world. It was the largest armada humanity had ever created. Admiral Hyun addressed them all one final time. We go now to end this, not with hatred but with justice, not with cruelty but with mercy. We will show them that strength without compassion is not strength at all. Whatever happens, we face it together. The fleet jumped toward Velkaris, toward the final battle, toward the end of 3,000 years of conquest.